Alrighty, folks. Good morning. My name is Brad Wolfenden, and on behalf of Tortora Brayda Institute for Partnership Excellence in the U.S. Cyber Games, I'd like to welcome you all to this virtual event. I will be your host this morning and your moderator. For those of you joining us, we appreciate your time and look forward to sharing with you a little bit more about the U.S. Cyber Games and the effort that is underway to recruit, train, and compete in the inaugural International Cybersecurity Competition. The Tortora Brayda Institute for Partnership Excellence is an organization for partnership development. TBI engages businesses, cultural, government, and thought leaders to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices with a view to improve and secure businesses and economies. As a think tank, we are independent, nonpartisan, apolitical, and embody the highest moral and ethical standards. We believe that developing diverse, inclusive business partnerships and fostering an entrepreneurial culture forms the heartbeat of successful economies. And with that, I would like to welcome and introduce our panelists for today. First and foremost, Ms. Jessica Gulek.
Hi, Brad. Thank you for having us today.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Next, we have Dr. TJ O'Connor.
Hi, thanks a lot, Brad, for having us today.
Thank you for joining us. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Danielle Santos.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Hi, Danielle. Wonderful. So as your host and moderator today, I will be lobbing some questions at each of our panelists. And before we get started, I'd like each of them to just take a minute or two to provide a quick intro to a little bit about themselves, what they do, and why they're here. So we'll start with you, Jess.
Fantastic. Well, hello. The name is Jessica Gulek. My role is founder and commissioner of the U.S. Cyber Games. However, I know quite a few in the community based on my previous cybersecurity experience working for SAIC and at Invitas as a global marketing manager, and most recently leading a marketing firm called Cat's Eye that runs quite a few different cybersecurity programs such as Wicked Six, Cyber Carnival, and a few others. We're about 10 now. So, incredibly passionate about diversity in our community, about bringing on, the best we can to be in cybersecurity careers, and of course, cyber as a sport.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jess. We appreciate you being here. Looking forward to what you have to share with us. Dr. O'Connor.
Hi, my name is Dr. TJ O'Connor. I'm the program chair for the cybersecurity program at Florida Tech. And I also run our IoT security and privacy lab. I'm coming off a career of 20 years in the military, where I spent most of my time helping technology efforts for the Special Forces and had the privilege to teach cybersecurity at the U.S. Military Academy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your service and thank you for joining us today. And Danielle, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Danielle Santos. I have a few different roles in my organization. I'm with the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, which is led by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. And here at NICE, I am the lead for communications and operations, but I'm also our lead for international outreach, which I know the U.S. Cyber Games is focused on the international competition. So that's kind of the tie in there. I'm also a co-author of our NICE framework, which is one of the main products of the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. And I'll hope to maybe get into a little bit of that later in the panel.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thanks again, all three of you. Very much looking forward to the conversation today. So let's dive in. And I think, Jess, I might start with you. This might be the first time a lot of folks on the line are hearing about the U.S. Cyber Games. And as the founder and commissioner of U.S. Cyber Games, can you tell us a little bit about your vision for creating the program and what this whole thing is all about?
Absolutely, Brad. So earlier this year, the United States was invited to attend the International Cybersecurity Challenge in Europe, which will bring and host, if you will, over 9 groups of nations from around the world in both a capture the flag and red versus blue competition. So we had an opportunity to launch US Cyber Games, similar to, if you would, an amateur baseball team. right? We're looking through to bring together a team of around 20 that are ages 18 to 26 and a variety of different cybersecurity disciplines that will compose a team that will then travel internationally, first in December in Greece, and then hopefully more games will be added to the roster. You know, it's very similar to baseball, but we're in the cyber domain. And this allows us to create a lot more energy and buzz around cyber careers, but also start to delve into what kinds of skills do cyber professionals need. So it's pretty exciting. We launched the program similar to an athletic sports program. And the reason for that was really to try to build diversity. We could have picked one of the teams from any one of the fabulous cybersecurity competitions that happen throughout our nation. But we felt that this was an opportunity for us to open up the funnel and try to scout and recruit new talent that maybe hasn't had the same opportunities as others. So we did it similar to a college kind of program where we had the open, then we had a skills combine where they can immerse and sharpen their skills and focus in on functional disciplines. We'll also try to show the coaches what they're capable of. And that's particularly interesting if they weren't a student, right? Because that's not one of their requirements. So they might not have had the same opportunity as others to participate in one of the collegiate competitions that are out there. But you know, all this comes down to October 5th, our draft day, and I'm hoping to talk about that more later, where we'll announce the team and then take them on the road. So we really hope that this kind of positive competition and outreach across the nation can help build the best of the next generation of cyber professionals for tomorrow's challenges.
Very cool. I know all of us are excited to learn more about U.S. Cyber Games and sort of the process behind the recruitment and the training and education piece. So with that, let's jump over Dr. O'Connor. You're the head coach of the inaugural U.S. Cyber team. Tell us a little bit about, you know, what drove you to apply for the position. Some folks might not necessarily know what a cybersecurity competition is and why it's, you know, this effort is so important.
Sure. I think it's first important to recognize that I am a coach among an amazing team of coaches. And so we have Rob Fuller, Jasmine Jackson, Bryson Payne, Dane Brown, and Susanna Schmelk all helping out on the coaching team. And I'm here just today to represent their collective efforts. Phenomenal team of coaches. I think we all, and especially I, really love building that next generation. And I saw this as a huge opportunity to be a part of that. And to highlight what it is that these athletes do extremely well. And so if you go on any college campus, an NCAA Division I school, you know who the quarterback is. They have a popularity and status associated with them. And but if you probably don't know who the student is that can bypass ASLR, NX, and Stack Canaries. And so, you know, when the advertisement for this came out and looking for a coach, and it had a lot of branding associated with it that really went towards that aspect of really highlighting the repeated and deliberate practice these athletes had taken and were going to take to be part of a team that represented the United States. And I really wanted to be a part of that. I love building the next generation. For me personally, competition really wasn't a thing when I was coming up. There were far less cybersecurity competitions. Cybersecurity, and it was the dark arts at the time, and it had a very negative connotation associated with it. And I absolutely love to see now competitions embracing an offensive security aspect and putting such a positive spin on developing competencies and skills that are necessary for our nation. I think the last few months have really taught us that there's a critical skills gap in understanding offensive cybersecurity. I mean, we've had ransomware attacks on our energy and hospital sector. The SolarWinds attack demonstrated a nation-state style breach. But we're really just waking up from a disaster that's 4 decades in the making. And we really have a responsibility as a nation to build the next generation to understand this domain. And I'm really invested in being a part of that development, both with the U.S. Cyber Games and then in my profession where I run the Florida Tech's cybersecurity program.
Yeah, I think, you know, you certainly brought up a point that is worth unpacking a little bit more in terms of how do we start to kind of land what cybersecurity is to the masses and start to change the narrative a little bit around an understanding of how we stay safe online, both ourselves and as a country. So thank you for that. Real quick, I did want to mention, if those of you on the line have any questions, there is a Q&A tab across the bottom. We've reserved some time at the end. We will address any questions that come in. So please do engage with us. We'll be lobbing those questions at our panelists as we wrap up the discussion here in a bit, but just wanted to make that announcement. So back to it. Now, as we start to kind of push cybersecurity competitions and folks are kind of jumping on board, and as you know, Dr. O'Connor, you mentioned it was sort of the dark side of things and less understanding, not a total grasp on what individuals participating in cyber competitions are doing. There's lots of movement, and as we move this towards becoming more of a well-known thing, and part of that is the recognition from bodies like NIST and NICE. And the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, or NICE, jumped on the opportunity to support the US Cyber Games and was the first supporter really to start to understand the vision of what Jess was building and the team that she's put together is building. So Danielle, I would like to hear from you a little bit. What is the NICE framework? What is your perspective on why NICE is so interested in partnering with this program?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. So first, to the question about why we're so interested in partnering with the US Cyber Games. So at NICE, our mission is really to look at this deficit in cybersecurity workers. There's a huge need for talent in the space, and that need just keeps growing and growing. So we're kind of looking at that and trying to figure out how we can meet that need, how we can fill that gap of talent needs and prepare the next workforce, get people who are maybe showing an aptitude for cybersecurity careers, even though they may be in another career set, and bringing them into cybersecurity to help fill this need. So when we heard about the US Cyber Games, that really was interesting to us. It aligned to all of our strategic plans or our strategic goals. The first being really about creating discovery around cybersecurity careers. The US Cyber Games is a great way to introduce people to what cybersecurity is. And I think the bigger we can grow this and the more interest, like talking about it in the way of sports and getting people interested that way, I think we'll get more and more people from different areas interested in the career. Another goal we have is around transforming the learning process. And games are a great way to learn skills. I think we're finding more and more that, you don't just have to prepare for a cybersecurity career through formal education learning, although that's a great way to do it. There are also these different avenues of being able to build your skills and explore different new skills. We also talked about modernizing the talent management process, showing employers that, you can recruit from things like games, just like we have, Jess will talk about a draft day, where in Major League Sports, they sign on talent. And we want to look at cybersecurity careers in the same way, where employers are coming out and they're signing on new talent and hopefully recruiting from things like the US Cyber Games. We're also looking at things like the NICE framework, which I'm glad you brought up, Brad. And one of the things we want to do is expand the use of that NICE framework. And what the framework is really a common way to describe cybersecurity work. It provides 7 high-level categories based off of, we call them building blocks: tasks, knowledge, and skills for cybersecurity. These building blocks can be used to form things like work roles, competencies, and it really just helps show someone what a cybersecurity job or role looks like. And And not only that, but it helps employers describe their cybersecurity jobs and their needs and their teams in a way that can be better understood by using the same language that educators or learners, job seekers are using. So our hope and goal is to use the US Cyber Games to also incorporate use of that NICE framework. And we're kind of doing that by the training that the players, the athletes are getting. So in some of their exercises where we've been able to align them to areas of the NICE framework to, again, just hopefully start using that same language so that people are understanding, okay, I am proficient in this area of cybersecurity, and I can use that language, that messaging to communicate to employers my skill sets in a way that they understand as well.
Wow, very cool. I know, the task force that I chair for the Tortora Brayda Institute is all about the talent gap, and that NICE framework has played such a key role in so many different efforts across that space. And as you've mentioned, provides that common language that we can all kind of come back to and rally around. And as we're educating, as we're pursuing careers in this space, having that as a foundation to really kind of unite us all and support another shift of that gap towards less of one is so hugely important. So thank you. Dr. O'Connor, coming back to you, Danielle shared with us, the NICE framework, sort of the what it is and how, it was designed to be integrated or implemented. Tell us a little bit about how the US Cyber Games has taken the NICE framework and incorporated it into recruitment and training efforts, and what do those efforts and strategies look like?
Yeah, so I think we're really appreciative of NICE's efforts to create a common vernacular to describe these highly complex tasks, knowledge, and skills. This allows us to really kind of bridge that gap between a technical and non-technical audience. I mean, so a lot of times what we do in the domain of cyber is difficult to communicate, and it's difficult to communicate the nuances between different types of task skills and knowledge and skills there. And so NICE putting together a framework for that and breaking it down into individual skills really helps to articulate what it is that an athlete or an employee can do. And this is a really difficult problem. And NICE has done a good pass on it. I think when we look at things like the category of exploit analysis, when I hear exploit analysis, what it means to me is that you understand the calling convention of assembly language, the layout of the stack, the heap, and you can perform these very complex understandings you have these very complex understandings to perform a skill of overriding the memory of a program in execution. When someone else hears exploit analysis, they hear that you can run a reconnaissance tool like Nmap and match it to a signature, a Metasploit payload, and launch an exploit. And there's a huge difference between those two understandings. And it's important and critical to understand the difference between those two understandings. One takes me an entire semester to teach to undergraduate students, and another I can teach in a day or two. And that difference is key. And so codifying that difference, individual skills that are involved in that, really helps us to communicate to employers exactly what it is that someone can do when they fall into that category. In terms of the US Cyber Games and ETFs in general, I think the categories that overlap really well with the NICE framework are exploitation analysis, digital forensics, and incident response. Exploitation analysis and digital forensics really are direct overlaps with kind of two of the key categories of CTF style competitions, both the exploit or pwn category and then forensics category. And then incident response really aligns nicely against traditional red versus blue competitions where you have two forces aggressing each other in a cyberspace. In terms of how we've used it in the cyber games, how our recruitment and our development strategy over the last couple months of the combine, our coaches have led an amazing combine where every week we break out one of these kind of categories extremely well and run deep in it. And so the last one we ran was exploitation analysis, and we created several challenges for them to solve. And then students could connect to them and solve the challenges. We put them on teams to work collaboratively to grow from each other. And then we gave them individual assessments as well of their skills. What was really neat to see and always surprises me with when we do something like this is those athletes that they're willing to take the unintended paths. And so, for try to strain this as non-technical as possible, but we put out one challenge on a format string vulnerability. And so we fully expected it to be solved one way, and most of the athletes did solve it that way. And it was framed to be solved that way, and there was an intended solution path, and it was still a complicated challenge during that path. And we thought we had made it in such a way that we really wanted to reinforce this one critical skill of understanding how format string vulnerabilities work, and we wanted to assess that. And it would have kind of prevented any other intended paths. One student came back and solved and overcame 3 critical protection mechanisms. The stack was non-executable, there was a canary in it, and address-based layout randomization was enabled. Would in most cases would really prevent it from being solved in any other way. And so the student solved it. I was fascinated with the solution. I'd learned myself. Bryson Payne, whose team won the NSA Codebreakers Challenge in 2019, was fascinated with the solution. And so we both, queried the athlete and really said, hey, where did you come to when you solved this? Because this is not kind of the flow or pattern that I typically use or I typically teach. And his response really kind of reveals a lot about this, the importance of competition. He said, I really haven't seen it anywhere else other than in recent CTF competitions. I've seen people starting to use this technique. And so I thought it'd be applicable here, and it was. And, I grew as a person. I picked up a new skill. Bryson picked up a new skill. But I think this really highlights this kind of really creative aspect of cyber games is the fact that even if we try to categorize things really well, all these unintended paths are going to get explored and really expand our understanding of what those taxonomies look like. And so I'm really excited to be a part of this, both from an aspect of building, but also every time I join an effort like this and I'm part of building, I also grow quite a bit myself.
Right on. I think, kudos to the coaching team, kudos to the athletes that you shared that story with. What a cool takeaway, and looking forward to other stories like that. And I think it's, really interesting to hear how the U.S. Cyber Games training and development strategy has leveraged the framework as kind of a tool to provide that foundation, and then have adapted it and modified it to really support kind of that learning process that happens in cybersecurity. It isn't necessarily linear, and as you've said, sometimes somewhat unexpected. So very cool. Let's move over to Jess. As Dr. O'Connor shared with us, he's stoked to be a part of this. This is all very exciting. You must be so proud of what you're building and the team you've put together to support it. One thing that I hear quite often about careers in cyber is, from the outside, especially for those that might not necessarily know what a cybersecurity professional does on the day-to-day, careers in cyber can be a little bit intimidating. And I'll start with you, Jess, and would like to open it up to all 3 of you to kind of kick off a conversation around, how does the U.S. Cyber Games work to kind of demystify this whole career in cybersecurity?
No, I appreciate that. And it really has taken the community of advisors, for advisory board, Brad, your help as well.
Hey, Jess, your audio isn't super clear. I don't know if you've moved further away, or let's try that again.
Is that better?
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. It's taken a community, obviously, to get us to this point of advisors, our advisory board, Brad, of which you are part of. Nice being a funder of this program and really helping shape it and connect it from the athletes and the awesome work that the coaches are doing all the way through to the workforce, and helping our sponsors look at these athletes as potential professionals in their own companies, filling roles that are much needed in our community at large. But I think really how Cyber Games is different, US Cyber Games is different in demystifying the careers is a couple of things. It reminds me, listening to Dr. O'Connor, it reminds me back in the day when we were in the pilot year of Cyber Patriot, which is the high school competition, and hearing, they did a survey that day that said, hey, were you thinking about a college career in computer science before playing games? And the students were like, no. But now are you? And they said, absolutely. And it was because they got exposed to an experience on what a cyber job could be. But more importantly, it was about the team effort, right? When I think back to like the Maryland Cyber Challenge that we started in Maryland as part of the Cyber Maryland push, the early days of that, we got a lot of friction in the community from a lack of infrastructure to the schools in order to support bandwidth for games. A lot of the students were going to the local Starbucks to try to get better bandwidth. The barrier to entry to some of these other competitions that we have in our nation is months and months of preparation and being part of a college program that has a team that's already entered, and how do you get involved, et cetera. What we kind of are trying to do with Cyber Games, and Danielle, I think you had mentioned at the very start of the program, is we want to get as many people aware of this as possible, which is why the focus has been really on the outreach and the marketing, so that this has a low barrier to entry, no cost for the athlete to come on and just test, right? Just evaluate, do they enjoy this, number one. And it's multi-year, right? We're looking 18 to 26. If you come in as an 18-year-old, you play a couple of games, you're like, kind of dig it. You got a couple of years to still, go get some more resources and training, et cetera, and come back and try again. And then I've got to put kudos out there to the community at large, because over the last 5-7 years, programs like bug bounties, Try Hack Me and Hack the Box and things like that have created such a low barrier so that anybody from their cell phone, right? Anybody with any kind of level of computer access can come in and try, right? Which is cool. But I really think the demystifying of careers here is the thing that we don't talk a lot about in cybersecurity, but it's something we almost take for granted, and that's community. The cybersecurity community is pretty tight. Like, we all talk about going to summer camp, right? DEF CON and Black Hat. We talk about, the reunion at RSA. We talk about different conferences and seeing old friends, and we meet each other on Discord and on Zoom, et cetera, for various different programs. The community, and you get that if you're a sports program, right? When they come on and they're part of this combine, part of what I've heard from the coaches and the athletes is that they might have started trying to teach themselves skills, right, over the last couple of years. They might have even went through a bachelor's program in comp sci, but when they came into this combine, they got immersed and they had a community around and just helping each other out, challenging each other, being okay with failure and trying again. And, all that has really exposed them to the experience that games provide that is unique from training, education, and certs, right? It's that situational leadership training, that situational game experience that helps them really see, I could do this for a living and I could love it, right? And that's kind of the demystifying. But when it comes to the brass tacks of it all, it comes down to the NICE framework. And that's why it's vitally important for Danielle and the NICE organization, is that I was on the phone with one of our female athletes yesterday talking through her resume. This girl was brilliant. She had 3 pages of what she has done in cybersecurity and the research she has done and the classes she has taken. And she's like, how do I put this into a resume to get a job? you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no job experience here. So she brings up another file and she goes, well, I've done these internships, but how do I map all this together, right? And put my best foot forward. And I think that's what we're noticing is that, you know, the skills, the knowledge, the research, the education, the certification, the experiences, the NICE workforce framework helps us bring that together to help tie each one of those ends into a knowledge area, into a role, right, that they could possibly play on a team. And that's just really exciting because we're changing lives. It's a ton of fun. But I'm sure my colleagues here, Dr. O'Connor and Danielle, could also answer that question of demystifying the careers in cybersecurity and how cyber games in general, you know, not just US Cyber, but in general, how they're helping folks.
Yeah, I think I'd like to pull on that kind of that safe space for trial and error, sort of kind of get your toes wet, and how competitions kind of play into that space. And you know, we might touch on this a little bit later, but there was a question that came in just you know, talking about alternative pathways into careers in cyber. You know, competitions are a great way to kind of see if you like it, you know, figure out what it is, and how you kind of fit into a career in that space. So yeah, Dr. O'Connor or Danielle, do either of you have commentary on, you know, how the US Cyber Games really helps to kind of provide that first look into careers in cyber? And
Yeah, I can take a stab first. So just mentioned the US Cyber Open, which is really the kickoff to this whole season of games. And this is just our first year of doing this. I know, Jess, you're excited about continuing it in future years. I'm excited about what this can become. But in that first US Cyber Open, that was really open to anyone. You didn't have to be a certain age range. You didn't have to have a certain set of qualifications. Anyone and everyone could join that and just get their toes wet, do exactly that, explore what this looks like. You could use it as a place to learn. I think a lot of these kind of open capture the flag style competitions allow for that space to kind of just see what you can search for on your own and try to figure it out, which I think is a really key competency, if you will, for cybersecurity. The landscape, the environment is always changing. Threats are always changing. So being able to just have that exploratory outlook and want to kind of discover things on your own and figure things out, I think is really unique to this space. And so having this open competition where anyone can come was really a great kind of kickoff and introduction to the US Cyber Games. I also saw the question about kind of getting started. If you're looking for how to start getting into this, I think at the younger level, just mentioned US Cyber Patriots, which is a competition for middle and high school kids. And that's a great place to get started. If you're not in high school, but you're still wanting to get started, maybe you've been in a career for 40 years and you're interested in cybersecurity, there are a ton of free videos, online games, activities, different things. I'd be happy to share some links out about that, but there are a bunch of free places to kind of get started. And I'm not sure who mentioned it, but they're kind of safe places, right? There's these activities that aren't, in some cases, they're not competitive, so you don't have to worry about failing or trying to measure up to someone else. They're simply an avenue to be able to experiment and figure out if you like it, figure out which areas you like. Again, with the NICE framework, it provides a common lexicon, but more than that, it also tries to show the variety of cybersecurity careers. So I know we've kind of been talking a lot about the technical things. TJ shared that great example of an athlete teaching a coach a new technical skill. But there's also, I guess, a non-technical side of cybersecurity. So there are things like people in cybersecurity who do law, public relations, all kinds of other areas where it's not just, coding and hacking. So with the NICE framework, we're trying to use that word again, demystify demystify what the career looks like, and that you can come from a wide variety of backgrounds and utilize those skills that you already have in very successful cybersecurity careers.
That's amazing. Thanks, Danielle. Dr. O'Connor, did you have anything to add about, kind of maybe things you've heard from your athletes?
Yeah, so I think, well, I mean, first off, to be fair, I'm a huge advocate of education. Obviously, it's my profession, and I teach at a college. I think it sets an excellent background when done correctly. But it doesn't mean that's the only path. And it doesn't mean that it's the only way to do it. There are, and really to highlight, we have people that have all different, come from all different backgrounds and go ahead and do very well in this domain. I think the thing you hear again and again from those people is the same message, that they were willing to do deliberate and repeated practice. And repeated practice is kind of easy to understand. We all get it, just keep doing it again and again and again and again until you get it. It's the deliberate practice that I think we all struggle with. Again, really great that we got the nice framework and nice competencies, because that allows us to kind of taxonomize this, where the deliberate practice occurs. And so just doing the wrong problem several times just teaches bad repetition, but doing the right problem and understanding what aspect of that right problem you need to do is really important. And that's where I think there's this beauty in competitive cybersecurity games, is that we can get to the middle chess problem. And so to jump into my analogy here, I love a book by the famous book called The Art of Learning. It's written by the author was the little boy in Searching for Bobby Fischer, and he also went on to win the U.S. national push hands competition. Phenomenal athlete and just critical thinker. And they asked him once, how did you get so good at chess so early? I think he was the first U.S. grandmaster below age 10 or something like that. Please don't quote me on that. I probably have that wrong. But very early on, he achieved just great success. And they said, how did you get so good so fast? And they went back and they looked at his coaching strategy, his coach's strategy, and his coach avoided him playing the opening game and the ending game. A lot of chess at high level, there's a certain set of openings that everyone uses, and there's a certain set of finishes everyone uses. And his coach identified that once he'd kind of mastered that, repeating that would only take time away from him studying the middle game, where it got really creative and difficult, and the chessboard really expanded fast. And so to drill that, they went ahead and they knocked off all the pieces of the chessboard except for maybe 4 or 5 on each side, and then he played the game like that. And so when he got into difficult positions in chess, he had been there so many more times than everyone else, because everyone else had played full games. Competitive cybersecurity is playing the middle game at its best. And so you get to dive right deep into a problem, right? And sometimes it forces you to go back and learn. Like we're building the final CTF. And if any athletes are listening, free takeaway here on one of the challenge problems, right? It's got this aspect of cryptography that they're going to need to understand. And so they may not understand it right away, but when they look at the problem, it's going to force them to go back and develop a skill or review a skill, and then put that skill into practical application, so that they get to practice that aspect of cryptography, and they get to practice it in a specific domain. Sometimes that can be a lot better than a lengthy lecture on understanding the fundamentals behind cryptography, understanding how a particular algorithm works, understanding how the repudiation of a particular algorithm. Sometimes when people can explore that middle game and see the chessboard and see it in practical application, and they do it again and again, and they do that repeated and deliberate practice, it really allows us to understand things at a higher level of detail. And so, for those alternate paths, I love cybersecurity games. You don't have to have a degree to play. You can force yourself to gain the same knowledge. And even those that have degrees may not understand how to weaponize that degree to solve a problem, right? And so I'd say we're seeing that with a couple of our athletes. They have a great understanding of assembly, and it's necessary for difficult topics like binary exploitation and reverse engineering. But they don't understand yet how to weaponize that to build an exploit, to reverse engineer a binary, to solve a difficult problem. And then when we give them a problem, we work them through it, and they work through it themselves. They're able to transform that existing knowledge that they have into a particular skill in that domain. And so, again, really can't highlight cybersecurity games enough. My teammate, Jasmine Jackson, who is the heart of our coaching staff, is really excited about this idea that of how people develop themselves, and really her life is invested in developing others. She is putting together and leading a task force to put together a great developmental plan for people that want to join the team in 2022. And so we'll get that released out after the final competition wraps up. And for those that want to join the team next year, Jasmine's got kind of a working document of, hey, here's some of the things that you should do over the next year to develop yourself. And I think, obviously it's the first time we're going to get it. It's going to be a really good first pass on it. And everyone's invested in making sure that's a good document, but we expect that to grow over the years of the games and help people understand what it is, what things they can do to help make themselves successful.
It's fascinating. Definitely, kind of pulls on one of the questions that's come in as well. Quite a few cyber games exist out there. Dr. O'Connor, just staying with you, as someone that might be interested in participating in future opportunities with US Cyber Games, I know Jasmine's putting together the sort of recommendations and things, but and all of you, what are some things that folks on the line can look for, whether it's formal education, it's self-driven YouTube University kind of stuff, or other kind of games, competitions, activities. Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week is coming up. I know that's something that NICE offers as well. So talk to our audience a little bit about how can someone interested in participating kind of go about preparing themselves and setting themselves up for success.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm happy to start here. First off, go to our website, US Cyber Games, and sign up to be a fan so that you get on the email traffic, because every year we're hoping to open up again and look at the scout new talent from across the US, if not the world. So definitely one way to keep in the loop. And then, one of the things we haven't mentioned today that our audience might be of interest to our audience, Brad, and perhaps you could even mention something about it, is the communities of practice at NICE, because it's an excellent way for folks out there that are looking to help the younger audiences that they have a reach, prepare for a career in cyber or cyber games in general. There's a lot of wonderful resources online provided by NICE and those communities of practice out there. But in terms of just getting going, I think training and academic study is important. I think certs are also important. Certainly look at some of the certs, but I think it's just about reading and being part of the community at large, participating in some of the Discord conversations out there, and social media conversations around the threats that are happening in cybersecurity and some of the trends, and just becoming more and more aware and engaged in the community.
Cool.
I think one of the other things too that's really great to leverage if you're getting started is the mentorship communities. So Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu is a partner of the US Cyber Games. I know, Jess, you work closely with them, and they're a really great group to get involved with if you're a woman in cybersecurity. And you're looking for mentorship, you're looking for practice, you're looking for advice. Groups like that, International Consortium of Minority Professionals, Cybersecurity Professionals is another one, ICMCP. But there are a bunch out there. I think Jess mentioned the kind of community we have in cybersecurity, and getting involved in community groups like those are really helpful, especially if you want to find that advice or you want to network to do some job searching if you're looking for a career or looking to change in your career. Getting involved in those communities, whether they be affinity based like the Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, or if they're others like the professional groups like the ISSA, which I'm not going to remember what that acronym stands for, but other professional groups that are out there, or if they're related to a certification like ISC squared or SANS, I know they have groups as well. Getting in those can be very helpful. And Jess also mentioned our NICE communities of interest. They're free groups to join if you're interested in topics like competitions. We have one in K-12, apprenticeships, and others. So if there are specific topics that you just want to learn more about what people are doing or offering in this space, the priorities we're talking about, how we can address them, those are good groups to just join, and you can be a fly on the wall during our monthly meetings, just listening to what other people are presenting, or we very much welcome others to contribute their ideas. And so you're welcome to get involved in the group that way as well.
Cool. Dr. O'Connor, kind of a little slant towards same question, but I'm going to riff on it a little bit. One's come in asking, you mentioned the art of learning. Are there any other books or podcasts, things that you would recommend for those interested in exposing themselves to cybersecurity careers?
Yeah, so I love the art of learning. I think it's tailored towards generic learning, and so I'll spin down a little bit into who it is that I watch on YouTube and follow. There are more resources out there than you know what to do with right now. And the benefit of that is that there's more resources. The problem sometimes is there's more resources, and so it's hard to understand which ones really have the strength and value that are necessary. So I'll talk about a couple that I watch. I love watching this guy Live Overflow on YouTube. I think he puts out some of the best content possible. I think he breaks it down programmatically. I think he solves difficult problems and reduces them into a simple problem for understanding. And I think he's just one of the best people at doing it. Can't get enough of his videos, and the speed at which he produces content for audience is unbelievable. So plug to him. I think just amazing content. I also like going back and going on this website called CTF Time. CTF Time captures historical CTFs, or capture the flag competitions. And one of the great things is this is a really inclusive learning community. So after you've gone on a weekend and spent an entire weekend trying to turn a 1 into a 0, and you weren't capable of turning the 1 into a 0, which I literally have spent 72 hours trying to turn a 1 into a 0 and failed. You go on CTF Time and you find someone else that compete in the same competition, and they post a write-up, and you review that write-up, and you go, oh gosh, I got lost on this particular aspect of the problem, and that particular aspect really trapped me into my way of thinking. It's this great way then when you compete the next time around and you encounter the same type of problem, you know how to get through it. And then you go ahead and post a write-up, and someone else captures your write-up. And so, I really enjoy CTF Time. I think you have to make an account on the website to get contact to all the writings. There's no cost to make it. And I think you have to build a team to build your own write-ups. And so you can build your own cybersecurity team, start making write-ups, start reviewing other people's write-ups. But CTF time is phenomenal for that, creating that kind of very deliberate practice that I talked about earlier. And yeah, Live Overflow is certainly someone I watch and on YouTube, and I think would be a good starting point for anyone to understand.
Cool. If you wouldn't mind, maybe you can drop a link to Live Overflow for all of us. I know personally, I wouldn't mind checking it out. We are getting closer towards the end of our time this afternoon. Jess, I want to make sure you have a little bit of an opportunity to talk about, you know, there are likely some folks on the call today that might be interested in promoting this effort or becoming a coach, sponsoring the US Cyber Games. Can you tell us a little bit more about those opportunities?
Absolutely. We, you know, it's our first year. I'm sorry.
I think that was Dr.
That was me
O'Connor.
grabbing the link for Live Overflow. I apologize.
So no, I mean, this is our first year. So we are looking for help from fans and champions out there to help us spread the word as far and wide as possible about the program. It will be continuing next year. Hooray. Fantastic. Very excited about that. You know, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to play, to coach, to be a tech mentor, to help Dr. O'Connor and the coach team maybe come in and if you are an expert in your field or, you know, have a reason to be able to demonstrate something to the athletes so that they can hone their skills, you know, iron sharpens iron kind of thing. It's, you know, we're looking for whatever help we can. We're also looking for sponsors, right? All of our sponsorship dollars go through our fiscal sponsor, the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. So it's all 501c3. And the dollars are going to be leveraged for equipment and gear and such, travel primarily for the team, so that we can, you know, take them abroad and compete. So we need sponsors. It is plenty of time. A lot of people ask me, they're like, is it too late? You know, is there enough value there? We're a continuing program, so it's not too late. We have our big day, draft day, October 5th. We're really excited. And it's going to be one of the most different events you have ever seen in cybersecurity. Fun, fast-paced, quick talks, great speakers. But best of all, Dr. O'Connor and his coaches team will introduce us to the first US Cyber team, and we'll see who the 20 athletes are and hear more about their stories, as well as quite a few other athletes that are in the program that perhaps didn't make it this season, but have a wonderful opportunity to make it next season, right? And so great opportunity to get some brand awareness of your logo and your business out there, to be associated with a program with a wonderful positive cause, but also get you access to some of our athletes if you're looking to recruit. So we encourage you, reach out to me. You can reach me at jess@uscybergames.com. You can check us out on the website, send a note through there. We'd love to get as many people involved in this as possible. And just while you gave me the mic, I can't help but thank everybody, really, from our advisors to our sponsors, to our partners, our media partners, for today, our hosts for this webinar. This has been tremendous. I mean, to think we've turned this around since what, Danielle, we started really April 15th-ish, something around there. It's just been exciting and you know, more to come. So the program's just going to expand and grow as we go, and very excited for what happens. And we didn't get a chance, and perhaps we can revisit to talk about the international components of this and the collaboration that's offered through almost a soft play, if you will, with our colleagues and peers globally, and how they're growing their cyber workforce and what's important to them, and what tools they're leveraging. There's a great opportunity here, not just nationally, but internationally, for us as a global community, to diversify, to better our skills, and to better protect our nation's national infrastructure and companies and e-commerce. So very exciting times.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we didn't get to today, and hopefully, you know, we'll have an opportunity, those of you on the line, tune in to uscybergames.com. I know, Jess, there's a couple social media profiles they can follow, probably Twitter. I know TikTok.
Of course, TikTok, one of our sponsors.
Yep. One of our sponsors. Very cool. And I did want to also mention before we leave today that draft day. What was the date of draft day?
October 5th.
Cool. And there's something else going on in October, Danielle. I know the National Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week is in October and part of the bigger month. So do you want to talk a little bit about Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week and month?
Yes. So let's actually start with the month. So all of October is going to be a month around raising awareness of cybersecurity. So this includes digital hygiene, really the basics of what every citizen needs to know about cybersecurity and to keep themselves safe online. And then the third week of October, the 18th through 23rd, I believe, is a week specifically focused on cybersecurity career awareness. So at NICE, this is something we've tried to start organizing annually to promote cybersecurity careers, focus in on demystifying them, talking about how you can do several different roles. It's not just one thing in cybersecurity, and really get people excited about the careers and interested in them. So there's, if you go to our website, nis.gov/NICE, you'll see the Career Awareness Week there, and there's a bunch of different resources. If you're interested in finding more about a cybersecurity career, or if you're interested in materials to help share out with people, if maybe you're already in the career and you want to further share resources with folks, there's a lot of activities that are going to be going on during the week, and we're starting to build out kind of an event portal where you can look at all the webinars. Most things will be virtual this year, but you can kind of look at those and see what you want to attend. So we're really excited about October, starting with draft day and then following through the rest of the month with all of the different activities. It'll be a busy month for sure, but definitely exciting.
Very cool. Well, it's going to be here before we know it. So very much looking forward to it. All right, folks. I want to throw a big thank you out to our host today, the Tortora Brayda Institute. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience and share a little bit about US Cyber Games. Of course, our phenomenal panelists, Jessica, Dr. O'Connor, and Ms. Danielle Santos. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about kind of your roles and responsibilities and why you're also excited about the US Cyber Games. Again, uscybergames.com. If you have any other questions, that's how you can get a hold of the team here today in front of you. And thank you all of you attendees. We really appreciate your time and attention, the wonderful questions, and hopefully we'll hear from you in the near future. So thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Jess, TJ, Danielle, again.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks,
Really
Brad.
appreciate you
Thank
hosting
you.
today.
Y'all take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.